especially seeing Jack defend takedowns in the way that he did. And Islam, he struggled a little to take down Dustin Poirier.
Daniel Cormier raised concerns for Islam Makhachev, arguing that staying at 170 pounds may not be as easy for him as it seems. Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen criticized the UFC for creating confusion around the situation. He argued that the organization hasn't clearly stated whether Islam Makhachev has been stripped of his title or not. Sonnen drew parallels to a similar scenario involving Ilia Topuria, suggesting the UFC has a history of unclear communication. In his view, Islam's opportunity to become a double champ is now gone, effectively taken away with the apparent vacating of the belt.
I don't hate the idea. Here's where my confusion comes in, is how come these things aren't clearer? For example, if you ask Islam if you were stripped, Islam will say no. If you ask the UFC was this stripped, the UFC will say yes. I'm just not sure why these terms aren't clearer. If Islam's goal was to go up to 170 so he could obtain champ status, but they take the 55-pound title away, they also take that opportunity to become champ away. But hear me out on this, because they did the same thing to Ilia Topuria, and Ilia is claiming that he wasn't stripped. In fact, not only is Ilia claiming he wasn't stripped, it was as recently as last week on the Errol Hawani program, they swore up and down that Ilia was promised a title shot whether it involved Islam or not.
On the other hand, Daniel Cormier emphasized that it's within the UFC's rights to make decisions according to their preferences. However, he argued that in the case of Islam Makhachev, who has defended titles on short notice multiple times, he deserves the opportunity to become a double champ. Cormier pointed out that the key issue should be clarity on whether a fighter is defending a higher or lower division belt. In Islam's case, he is moving up to defend in a higher weight class, which should be recognized and supported accordingly.
I believe that they are within their right to go, we don't want to tie up two divisions. I do also believe, though, that when you get a guy like Islam, who has defended the belt as many times as he's defended, who has been available, who has fought guys on short notice. He fought Moicano on a day's notice. I think in that you get some goodwill, and you should have the opportunity to be a double champion. But here's where you have to have something that's known, is you've got to have a decision for me the moment you have both of those belts, if it happens. You're either staying up and vacating the belt down at the lower weight class, or you're gonna vacate the upper belt and go back down. I can't have you just sitting here with two titles for a year and not fighting. Or we have a time frame in which you have to defend it. One of those championships. Generally, Chael, the guy will choose to defend the heavier one, because you don't want to cut the weight if you don't have to.
Sharing his thoughts, Chael Sonnen agreed with Daniel Cormier's points, but expressed strong dislike for the idea of Islam Makhachev moving up in weight. He argued that Islam's decision to move up stems from what he sees as cowardice, pointing out that Makhachev should have fought Belal Muhammad, a top contender he had previously expressed interest in facing. Instead, Chael claimed Islam chose to go after Jack Della Maddalena, leaving behind the legacy he had built so far.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said. I'm just not willing to skip through the flowers like this is a reality. Islam went up not out of courage. Islam did not go up out of adding hardware to put on his mantle. He went up with one condition, which is I don't have to fight Belal Muhammad. Now, he can sit around and say, I could beat Belal, and I wouldn't go up and beat Belal because I can beat Belal. The bottom line is you entered a division openly that you said you wouldn't face one of the top guys. That's not a sign of courage. That's a sign of cowardice. I don't love the idea. You have an undefeated. Make sure you understand what happened. I know this is your friend, DC. I think of Islam as my friend, too. But let's think of what happened. You have an undefeated, #1 ranked world champion who's chasing you down. He is willing to leave his division.
Disagreeing with Chael Sonnen, Daniel Cormier pointed out that Islam Makhachev isn't avoiding anyone out of fear, and that skipping a fight with Ilia Topuria is simply because Ilia isn't in the 155-pound division. Cormier emphasized that if Ilia wins the title and moves up, Islam would be open to facing him. He added that if Islam had forced a matchup outside the division structure, it would have turned the whole situation into a circus.
I think it's about the fact that if Ilia was a 55-pounder, he would fight him openly. If he was a guy that was at 55 for years, and if Ilia wins the belt and fights a time or two, and he stays at 55, he'd be more than open to fighting him again at 155. But I think it's the smell of the guy being a featherweight that turns you off of it if you're Team Makhachev. It's just the way it is, Shell. And you got to understand. You got to understand that with these dudes and with Ilya and how bold he is, it feels to me like it would turn into a circus. Now, I don't know that these dudes want to be involved in a circus, being that Khabib was involved in the biggest circus of all time with Conor. That's me.
Meanwhile, prominent MMA manager Ali Abdelaziz stated that if the outcome of the Jack Della Maddalena versus Belal Muhammad fight had been different, Islam Makhachev likely wouldn't have left the division. In his view, Islam is now looking to prove his dominance on a bigger stage. Ali emphasized that if there's anyone who truly deserves the opportunity to become a double champion, it's Islam Makhachev, not just in his opinion, but in Dana White's as well.
After unbelievable fight Belal put on, and I think Belal gained so much fun from this fight, and he'll be back. There's no doubt in my mind. But Islam have beaten everyone in this division. Literally, Dan Hooker, Arman, Charles Oliveira. He's on a 15-fight winning streak. Finished 10 of his last 9 opponents. Is nothing else anybody deserved to go fight for a second title. Islam. And the reason was he wasn't going to do it because Belal was the champion, right? And, and the UFC was like, even I was talking to Dana, and he's like, if anybody deserves, Islam can do whatever he wants. And if Islam go up, he's the champion. You have these two guys, Charles Oliveira and Ilya, fighting, and they can fight for the title. But everybody knows who's still the champion of this division, because he never lost the title, right? Now Islam get to fight end of the year.
Ali Abdelaziz went on to express full confidence in Islam Makhachev's ability to defeat Jack Della Maddalena at 170. He also noted that the fight between Jack and Belal Muhammad was extremely close, and he remains confident that if Belal ever gets a rematch, he would come out on top. Ali further asserted that no one else has accomplished in the UFC what Islam has, shutting down critics and justifying his move up to 170 with his track record and dominance.
Fight Jack Maddalena, who's a really good fighter. Give credit where all credit due. And I just think Belal, absolute warrior. He just have a little off night, and I believe he can still beat Jack. It was very close fight, but right now Islam he's gonna go fight for a second title, well deserved. Nobody in the UFC right now in any division doing what Islam Makhachev do.
Meanwhile, Daniel Cormier has issued a warning to Islam Makhachev as he moves up to 170, noting that he may face serious challenges in defending the belt. Cormier pointed to Islam's recent fight with Dustin Poirier, where he appeared to struggle with takedowns at times. He emphasized that against Jack Della Maddalena, who just proved his dominance against a strong opponent like Belal Muhammad, Makhachev will need to make significant improvements to deliver a stronger performance this time around.
Islam Jack is going to be a great fight, especially seeing Jack defend takedowns in the way that he did. And Islam, he struggled a little to take down Dustin Poirier. He didn't take him down as easily as he had taken down other guys. So I think that for Makhachev, he needs to really lock in on getting that wrestling ready to fight a guy in Jack Della Maddalena, who showed great takedown defense. And man, this dude's got some good boxing, especially when you're in tight with him. His hands are good in close.
Daniel Cormier went on to emphasize that the build-up to this fight has been incredible so far, calling it a great matchup. However, he also raised concerns about Islam Makhachev competing at 170, noting that we've never seen him in this weight class, and questioning whether his stature and physical frame match up to someone like Jack Della Maddalena. Cormier added that if Jack performs the way he did against Belal Muhammad, this fight could turn out to be even more intriguing.
But you see those guys now already know, hey, we're going to build this thing. We're going to try to make people tune into this thing. They're going to watch regardless. It's a fantastic fight. It's a big-time fight. And if Jack Della looks the way he did last weekend, it's very, very intriguing fight, because we've never seen Islam Makhachev fight up at 170 pounds. We've never seen it. We've never seen him have to compete up 15 more pounds. Yes, he is a big dude. But in terms of full-on stature, is he big as Jack Della Maddalena is? And also, if he thought he may fight International Fight Week, how small had he gotten? And how much time does he have to put the weight back on the right way before he moves up to 170?
Daniel Cormier also pointed out that Islam Makhachev was initially unwilling to vacate his belt, but has now done so to face Jack Della Maddalena. While he acknowledged that this is a commendable step by Islam, he also raised concerns about the potential difficulty Makhachev may face in managing his weight. Despite that, Cormier emphasized that Islam's confidence deserves recognition. Taking on such a tough challenge at 170 shows just how determined he is to prove himself.
So essentially, it seems like Makhachev is open to bouncing up and down. We have not seen anyone do this but Amanda Nunes. Go up to 145, beat fighters like Megan Anderson and those girls, and then go down to 135 and do what she did as the bantamweight champion. It seems and feels like Makhachev thinks he can do the same thing. That's difficult. That's hard, especially once you get that belt at the next weight class. Why do I have to cut the weight when I'm the champion?
Praising Islam Makhachev's decision, Daniel Cormier suggested that if Islam successfully defeats Jack Della Maddalena, it could give him the ultimate opportunity to be considered one of the greatest fighters in the world. He acknowledged that Islam is already among the best, but said this opportunity could further elevate his legacy and accelerate his path to greatness. Cormier also shared his thoughts on how the anticipated matchup between Belal Muhammad and Islam never materialized, highlighting how such missed fights are part of the unpredictable nature of MMA.
Islam, if he is able to do this, would further cement himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time. He really would. He would cement himself as one of the greatest of all time. I think he's already one of the greatest of all time. But by going up to 170, one of the things that he would not do was fight Belal Muhammad. And they were very clear about him and Belal Muhammad about not wanting to fight each other. But then Joaquin Buckley writes, crazy that you were praying for your so-called brother's downfall. That was Joaquin Buckley. So not only does Islam have an opportunity to become a world champion, he's already got guys up at 170.
At the same time, Javier Mendez discussed Islam Makhachev's move to 170 alongside Tim Welch, who expressed confidence in Islam's ability to transition smoothly. Welch noted that adding a few more pounds and some additional muscle shouldn't be a problem for Makhachev. He praised Islam as one of the best fighters in the world and acknowledged that making such a move in a short period is a major challenge, but added that given Islam's skill and discipline, there's strong hope he will succeed.
A big lightweight anyways, so I don't think Jack's gonna have too much weight on him. Maybe come fight time, maybe Jack will have 5-6 pounds, so it's not a huge amount, you know. So I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay, and I think by the time if that fight does materialize, maybe Islam will have a few more pounds on him of muscle. But you know, as it is, you know, gaining muscle is not going to be that easy to gain, you know, in a short period of time, you know. So it takes a while to build muscle.
I think I saw something where it said Islam stepped in the cage about 179 and Jack stepped in the cage about 189. But I also did hear a rumor from the PI that sometimes Islam gets up close to 200 pounds, and he's not a short dude.
Javier Mendez went on to assert that the possibility of Islam Makhachev achieving his goal of becoming a double champion is still very much alive. He weighed in on the matchup, noting that Islam possesses the skill set needed to dominate even in the welterweight division against someone like Jack Della Maddalena. Mendez stressed that he sees a successful future ahead for Makhachev, and confidently stated that once the two meet, Islam is well on his way to accomplishing his goal of becoming a double champ.
You know, it's possible. It's possible. It's possible. I mean, it is definitely possible. I mean, he definitely has the skill set for that. But I think right now his main goal, he's always said he wanted to be a double champ. He wanted that legacy fight. You know, he said this, you know, right shortly after he won the title, that he, you know, one day he would like to go for a welterweight title. And now we're in that potential possibility that Belal's no longer there, you know, and Islam actually wants that opportunity. So let's see what the UFC comes out with. But You know, once that happens, and then who knows? Who knows? Maybe. I mean, let's focus on.
While breaking down the fight between Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev, Javier Mendez refrained from making any final predictions on how the bout would play out. He explained that he prefers to let the fight happen and allow the fighters to go through all the rounds before drawing conclusions. Mendez emphasized that this approach comes from his training mindset. He focuses on preparation and performance in the ring, rather than speculation outside of it.
I'm always the same. I never change. I'm ready for a 5-round war, and the reason being is if I go out, you know, say, oh, he's going to submit him or he's going to dominate him, but then the fight happens and no submission, no domination, then my train of thought goes away and I forgot to be engaged in the fight because I thought about, oh, okay, we're not going to submit him. But that little thought to me is something that I can't afford. Like, for instance, if you think about if you're driving in the freeway and you lose track and you look behind and all of a sudden you look ahead, you've just wrecked because you weren't paying attention. So I kind of look at it like that. You know, I need to be engaged at all times and look at the fights of what's going on in front of me. You know, so if I look at...
On the other hand, Jack Della Maddalena's manager, Tim Simpson, expressed strong confidence in Jack's ability to defeat Islam Makhachev. He stated that while Jack is certainly chasing the belt, his primary focus has always been on evaluating matchups and believing in his ability to beat any opponent. As for Islam being a significant challenge, Tim dismissed the notion, pointing out that Jack has already proven himself at a high level and is more than ready for this opportunity.
Doesn't have a belt or won't have a belt, but I feel like kind of feels like Jack's the challenger. You know what I mean? In a certain capacity, it's like he's challenging, I guess, for the #1 pound for pound spot. It kind of feels like he's the guy that's chasing it because Islam's so great. Islam's the #1 pound for pound. He's done so much. Almost feels like it's sure Jack will be the champion, but it's almost like inverse. That's the way I kind of see it, and I think that's the way Jack sees it too. And you know, what he said yesterday, we were kind of chatting about during the week, and he's always kind of spoke about these fights as like matchups rather than like what moves him towards a belt or what is a belt. He's always kind of like, yeah, I reckon I can beat him.
Backing Islam Makhachev's decision to move up, Ian Gary also weighed in, stating that Islam is one of the greatest fighters of this era and a true example of an evolutionary athlete in MMA. In his view, if Islam has made the decision to move up in weight, he absolutely has the right to do so, and other fighters are bound to respect him for it. Gary went on to highlight the exceptional abilities Islam possesses, calling him one of the finest and most complete fighters in the sport today.
If he wants to,
Absolutely.
Islam Makhachev, he's the pound for pound #1. You got to give respect where respect is due. And if that man turns up and says, I want to be next, then I think everyone in the welterweight division goes, okay. And I think if you try to argue that, then you don't have respect for the greatest in the world. I think he's an absolute disaster for everyone in the division if he comes up and doesn't have to cut weight. He'll still be big, he'll still be strong. He's the perfect example of the new evolution of fighters. Great everywhere. You look at Khabib, and Khabib was just dominant at grappling. Islam's the exact same. Probably more clean when it comes to his grappling. Not the same dog.
In addition to praising Islam Makhachev, Ian Gary also expressed his desire to face him one day, stating that fighting the best in the division has always been one of his goals. Regarding Islam's move up to 170, Ian showed genuine respect for the decision, acknowledging it as bold and admirable. He highlighted Islam's refined skill set, particularly his elite grappling and phenomenal footwork, attributes he believes were sharpened under the influence of Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Pressure that Khabib has. And when you look at Islam on the feet, I mean, dude, he can crack. So I think he makes the welterweight division even more fun. And and I have nothing but respect for the man. But I'm someone who wants to test myself against the best in the world, and I would love to test myself against them.
Amid all this, the discussion around a potential fight between Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev continues to circulate. Speaking on the topic, Ali Abdelaziz dismissed the idea, stating that Islam is a true pound-for-pound fighter, while Ilia hasn't even earned that status yet. He argued that Islam deserves the chance to move up and compete at 170, rather than being pushed into a fight with Topuria. Ali also criticized the double standards, pointing out how people questioned Khabib when he moved up, and now they're doing the same with Islam, something he finds both unfair and strange.
beat Volk 2 times, who's the pound for pound number 1 at the time. Ilya is not the pound for pound at the time. He finished hookers. He beat Arman. He beat everybody, technically. He have more title defense than anyone in history, the UFC. He have the second longest winning streak in history. He about to tie Anderson Silva's record. And, you know, it's anyone deserve it. If you see Izzy going up fighting for a title, if you see other guys who fight for second belt, Volk 2 times, you know, how you gonna tell me Islam doesn't deserve it? And it's weird because when Habib didn't go up, people said he's scared to go up. Now Islam is going up, oh, his chest can stay down.
From 155 to 170, Islam Makhachev is chasing greatness, but the questions, critics, and contenders keep coming. Will he silence the doubt and make history, or will this move spark even more chaos in the fight game? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more firefight talk every week. Until next time, stay sharp, fight fans.